Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to a Monday edition of Sports Daily on KFH. I'm Tommy Castor, Jacob Albracht, out this week on vacation, joined by Paul Savage, who, of course, was in last week covering for me. It's kind of like the radio version of musical chairs around here on Sports Daily, but we are excited to have you here on the program on a edition. You can join the show at any time by calling the IHOP hotline at 869-1240. Of course, you can join our video stream as well. We welcome all of our listeners and viewers there on the video stream. You can watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Leave your comments right there on the screen and join the show that way. A big show to get to today. And I'll tell you right now, Paul, it is good to be back. It's been a week since I've been on the air. I'm a little bit sleep deprived, but I am happy to be here. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. Congratulations to you and your family on this new son of yours. Little disappointed. You had originally told me you were going to name him Paul after me. That didn't happen, and I'm a little disappointed.
Talk to my wife.
Actually, it was Paul.
Talk to my wife about that.
Paul Jad Castor is what I was thinking it would be. But anyway, it's good to have you back, and congratulations on the little one, my friend. That's a big, big deal, and I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, typically I do this show from my office. I'm doing the show from home right now. So I'm in the basement. I've got, my studio all set up, but I've got the newborn and I've got the toddler upstairs. And so if you hear screaming, if you hear any of that stuff, it's either the toddler, the newborn, or I guess it could be my wife, because I've left her with, both the newborn and the toddler for the next couple of hours, but she's a pro. She'll be good. And so I'll tell you what, though, I felt like throughout the entire week last week, there were a lot of things that were going on, Paul, in the world of sports. And I had opinions that were just inside me, and I didn't have an outlet to express them. So I'm so glad to be back on the show.
Well, you don't have a phone. You can't pick up the phone and call the IHOP hotline here right into the studio and make yourself known. Come on, man. You're Tommy Castor. You can do whatever you want to do. Give us a call right on in. I mean, we'll take it. I'll tell you that. And would have enjoyed getting your take on a lot of items. There are a couple of things, as a matter of fact, that I hope we kind of, circle around to and get your take on a couple of things that were kind of fun last week. But we'll see what happens. But I know you want to get to the NBA.
Of course. Yeah. A lot to get to on the show today. We're going to talk, a little bit about the reports over the weekend. In fact, it came down yesterday, a report that Wichita State has settled, or they finalized, they found their new baseball coach. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the program. Also, some reports of Colorado. It might be imminent that they will be joining the Big 12. We're going to talk about maybe a little bit of Tom Brady as we get later on into the show. But like Paul mentioned, we want to start with the NBA Finals. Game 2 of the Finals last night in Denver. How about those Miami Heat? I'll tell you what, they get the victory 111-108. They even the series one game apiece with the Denver Nuggets. And you know what? I was looking at this, Paul. I watched the game last night. I was, reading up about it, recapping all of, everything that went down last night in game number 2. And it finally hit me how monumental this victory was for Miami. It had been a long time since a road team had went into Denver and got a victory. And the Miami Heat, I think against all odds, they would be a team that I'm not sure a lot of people would pick to go into Denver and get a victory on the road in the NBA Finals. But they were able to do it. It was a tight game. They were staring down the barrel, Paul, of falling behind 2-0, and then the series going back to Miami. I think a lot of the pundits out there, I think if you would have asked me about it, I probably would have said, yeah, Denver's going to go up 2-0 in this series. Just a foregone conclusion. Like, even before the series started, I would have said, yeah, Denver's going to go up 2-0. And here comes Miami doing what they've been doing all postseason long, getting the victory 111-108. And again, I don't know if you can overstate how important of a victory that was for Miami to not only get the momentum back on their side as the series goes back to Miami, but also just being able to get one on the road in a really, really tough environment in Denver.
Right. And where's the Denver team that we have come to really appreciate and admire? Where's their defense? How about defending the 3-point line? How about a little bit of that? I've got like a list of 5 or 6 things that I could point out. I'm not going to because they're obvious to everybody. But this is a Denver team that's in the NBA Finals. Hey guys, NBA Finals. That means something. You play hard. You defend, you make cuts to the basket, you do all kinds of things, you go after loose balls. You didn't have that happen last night with the Denver Nuggets. And I mean, not that they're not giving effort, but it's that little bit, it's that little extra, it's that little thing that you like to see. It's that scrap. It's kind of like pornography. You can't describe it, but you know it when you see it. And I know that I'm not seeing the kind of effort that I expect in an NBA Finals. But when you got Jokic and he's getting 41 points and you lose, come on, guys, step up around this guy. Yeah, you got to help him out a little bit at least. But very frustrating game to watch last night. Sluggish. What's going on in the last 10 to 12 seconds when you need a 3 to tie and you don't call a timeout and set up a play where you can set a screen and pop somebody free and find somebody on the three-point line to pop something. I don't know. It seemed like the coaching staff mailed it in, and it seems like the players mailed it in last night for the Nuggets.
Well, yeah, Paul, you're not the only one that thought that. Head coach Michael Malone from the Nuggets thought that the effort was really, really poor from the Nuggets in game number 2, and he spoke about it after the game.
Oh, did he?
Now let's talk about effort. I mean, this is the NBA Finals, and we're talking about effort. That's a huge concern of mine. And you guys probably thought I was just making up some storyline after game 1 when I said we didn't play well. We didn't play well. And tonight, that the starting lineup to start the game is 10-2 Miami. Start the third quarter, they scored 11 points in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And we just got, we had guys out there that were just, whether feeling sorry for themselves for not making shots or thinking they can just turn it on or off. This is not the preseason. This is not the regular season. It's not round. This is the NBA Finals. And that to me is really, really perplexing, disappointing. And I asked the team, I asked our player, you guys tell me why we lost. And they knew the answer. Miami came in here and outworked us. And we were by far our least disciplined game of these 16 or 17 playoff games, whatever it is now. So many breakdowns. And they exploited every one of those breakdowns and scored. So if we're going to try to go down there and regain control of this series and get home court advantage back, we're going to have to outwork Miami, which we didn't do tonight. And our discipline is going to have to be off the charts.
I didn't hear that, Tommy, but I can certainly appreciate what he said. That was the head coach of the Nuggets. Did I hear that correct?
Correct. Yeah,
and
that's correct.
So when now, because here's the thing also that what I just said was also, what about calling a timeout in the last 10 seconds? I mean,
right.
Let me just ask you, Tommy, I know you're a hockey guy at this point of your life, but you've watched enough basketball. If you were him, would you have called a timeout with, what was it, 12, 14 seconds left, 10 seconds? It was somewhere in that range, probably 11 or 12. If you were the head coach for the Nuggets, would you call timeout and set up a play? Or would you let them run helter-skelter and try to pop somebody open, which a lot of times doesn't happen? What would you have done?
Yeah, I think in that scenario, I mean, I would have called the timeout just because I would have wanted to set up as good of a play possible, because at that point, the game is on the line, right? And you've got the timeout, you've got a superstar in Jokic, and you want to set up something that, actually makes a lot of sense. And that's really not what the Nuggets did, in that final stretch of the game. And I think that one other thing, we talked about how big of a deal this is for Miami, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I think it's also a really big deal for Denver because they've never been in this position before. They were 11-0 in the playoffs this season when leading by double digits at any point in a game. 11-0. They were undefeated in the playoffs when they were leading by 10 or more. They were leading by 10 or more at one point in this game, and they lost. They were 37-1 this season overall when leading by at least 8 points going into the fourth quarter. 37-1. So this is uncharted territory for Denver. It's also uncharted territory for Denver where, you mentioned Nikola Jokic had 41 points. And typically we talk about how balanced the Nuggets rotation is and how all of the players, step up and they support Jokic, and he might have a triple double, but then you've got a couple of other players that are able to go and do their thing and have a lot of success. That's not what we saw in game 2. It was basically Nikola Jokic, and that was it. Like we didn't really see that balanced attack that we've been so used to seeing from Denver throughout the entire playoffs.
Right. You're exactly right. But, usually Jokic gets a lot of assists on cuts. And he is a masterful passer. But you got to cut to get open. You got to work to get open. To get double-digit assists for Jokic, you've got to work and work hard. And getting open is always hard work, takes a lot of effort. And the fact that Jokic only had 4 assists tells you the story of the game. That means that there were a lot of guys not working hard enough to get open, at least in my opinion, my humble opinion. I think that's the case. And I'm just flustered a little bit that this is the biggest stage in the world when it comes to basketball, this very moment. And you're not doing everything you can do. You're not defending the 3. That might be the biggest, at least in this game, not defending the 3, the 3-point line is unspeakable to me. I just can't imagine how it could happen. And, I'm not hearing many people talk about it, but listen, last night, the Heat were getting all kinds of open shots on the 3, weren't they?
Oh yeah. And that was something too that, it's been so difficult for any team, not just the Heat, but any team to go into Denver and win. The Nuggets are 34-7 at home this season. Like that home court advantage in Denver is absolutely a real thing. And I think that, switching gears a little bit and talking Miami here for a second, just the fact that, they've done this throughout the entire playoffs, Paul, where they get counted out. The conversation is always where they're the 8th seed. They're not meant to be here. They're going to get blown out of the water by Milwaukee. They're going to get blown out of the water by the Knicks. They're going to get blown out of the water by the Celtics. Hasn't happened. The Heat are they're there, and they continue to do what they do, and just against all odds, whether we're talking Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo. There are several players, Gabe Vincent, who is somebody that I'm not sure a lot of people knew about before this season started, before the playoffs even started for Miami, stepping up in big ways and making it work. Let's go to the IHOP hotline right now, 869-1240. Robert on the line wants to talk about the NBA. Robert, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I just want to add, I think you guys need to give the Heat some credit for the adjustments they made. It's not just about Denver not working hard enough, which was certainly true, in my opinion, on defense. Porter, in particular, he can't play any defense, messes up the switches, but on the other end, Jokic only had 4 assists because they switched Jimmy Butler onto Murray and pretty much took him out of the game. And the reason they were able to do that is because they started Kevin Love, who was on Gordon. So the Miami coaching staff made adjustments to basically isolate Jokic. He ends up with 4 assists instead of 10 assists in the first half like he had the other night. The 41 points almost doesn't matter because everybody else is cut off. And now it's on Denver to figure out how to deal with that on the next, in the next game.
Excellent point, Robert. No, you're right. Tommy, he's right on that one.
Yeah, really good point there, Robert. Do you think that, and you mentioned the Miami coaching staff, Robert, do you think that Eric Spoelstra, and I don't think we have Robert anymore on the line, but Eric Spoelstra, I don't think gets the credit that he deserves. And, he's been around for a long time. And of course, during those years that he had the big 3 and, of course, LeBron and all of that, I think a lot of folks said, well, hey, it's the players on the court. It's not necessarily Spoelstra that's getting it done for Miami. Look at what he's done with this roster. He has just absolutely found ways to make it work, with guys, not just Jimmy Butler, who's had a great playoff stretch, but Bam Adebayo, Gabe Vincent, others that have just stepped up and been able to make it work for Miami. And Eric Spoelstra, after the game, was also asked a little bit about the strategy about defending Nikola Jokic and what that means, and if they want to make him more of a shooter or a passer. And Spoelstra had this to say.
Hey, Coach. Ramona Shelburne, ESPN. This is probably oversimplifying things, but sometimes when teams play against Jokic, you turn him into a scorer, you turn him into a passer, and he controls the game. He only had 4 assists tonight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's just that's the untrained eye that says something like that. This guy's an incredible player. You know, twice in 2 seasons, he's been the best player on this planet. You can't just say, oh, make him a scorer. That's not how they play. They have so many different actions that just get you compromised. We have to focus on what we do. We try to do things the hard way, and he requires you to do many things the hard way. He has our full respect.
How remarkable is it, Paul, that you've got the best player in the NBA, I would say consistently over the last 2 or 3 seasons in Nikola Jokic, and a team like the Miami Heat, coached by Eric Spoelstra, being able to limit him to 4 assists. Yeah, Jokic did have his 41, but to Robert's point, he really wasn't able to do the things that make Jokic the best player in the league and make the Nuggets, an incredible basketball team. The Heat really limited that. How important do you think that is for Miami moving forward as the series goes back to Miami?
Well, if you want to be NBA champions, it's huge, and which of course they do. And the fact is, I think the Heat and this may sound crazy to you, Tommy. I think the Heat are happy to go ahead and give Jokic his 41 points, but to limit him in so many other ways, and to keep him from being effective in other facets of the game, I think they figure he's going to get his points. We can't stop that. And they're probably right. It would be very difficult to say, well, let's hold Jokic to 18 to 20 points for this whole series. That's probably not going to happen. I don't think it's even possible to happen. But if you hold him to his points, but you take him out of the other facets of the game for the Nuggets, man, everything changes. And we saw how things can change last night. And I liked Robert's point with regards to Jokic as well, saying, 4 assists, Miami did what they needed to do. And so this is going to be the whole thing going to Miami. And I don't know what effect that will have with Denver going to Miami. I mean, it's going to be interesting. But now at this point, you got to let yourself think, well, now if you're Denver, don't you at least have to split? I mean, a week ago or just 3 or 4 days, well, in fact, 2 days ago, we weren't talking like that, were we? We were talking about, well, what happens if the Heat? I mean, they go back to Miami down to, that's the way we were talking. Now in my own mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, what happens if Denver doesn't at least pick up one road win while they're in Miami on this trip? And I hadn't really thought of it that way till just now, but that is starting to weigh on my mind. What if you don't?
It's a whole new series at this point, in my mind. And that's the thing is I think that you can really overreact to one game, but that was a really important game for Miami. And the fact that we talked about it before, all of the, overcoming all of the odds, all the things that Miami did in Denver that Denver hasn't allowed teams to do all season long. There's a reason why the Nuggets only lost 7 times at home this season. They've got that home court advantage. That was so important for Miami. Now the series reverts back to Miami for game 3. I think we were talking about, people have been saying all along, oh, the Nuggets in 4 or the Nuggets in 5. We got ourselves a little bit of a different series now.
You think?
The impetus is back on the Nuggets to make something happen in game 3 in Miami, which will be coming up here in the next couple of days or so. Fun series, man. I'd rather have this to talk about than a Nuggets sweep, right? It makes it that much more interesting to talk about. So we'll, of course, have more info and more discussion about the NBA Finals as the week goes on. All right, we're going to step aside for a quick break. When we come back, reports surfacing over the weekend that the Shockers have their new baseball coach. We're going to talk about that on the other side. It's Sports Daily on KFH.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Sports Daily on a Monday here on KFH. Tommy Castor, along with Paul Savage. And I got to tell you, Paul, I got a little bit of a story to tell from over the weekend that was really awesome. And I posted about it on my social media. So anybody that follows me on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, they know about this. And so I know you probably saw it. My 2-year-old, his birthday is actually today. So he turns 2 years old today. Of course, we had our new baby last weekend, and our baby came about a month early. So kind of unexpected for my wife and I. And unfortunately for our toddler, that meant that his second birthday party was going to have to be canceled. We weren't able to do it, with the newborn and all of that. And, our toddler's young enough. We felt like he wouldn't really know the difference, but I felt bad about it. I thought, you know what, I want to do something for him. Something fun that he'll enjoy. So I took him to a wind surge game on Saturday night, and he loved it. He's gone to a couple of these games before and just sits on my lap, watches the game, has a really good time. And I had no idea, didn't ask for it, I didn't organize it or anything, but my son got to be the kid of the game at the wind surge game on Saturday night. And so they came and, they put him on camera and introduced him and all of that. So that was really cool. That was, shout out to the wind surge for doing that for him. Because, if you've got multiple kids, you know that when a new baby comes, it can be hard for the older siblings sometimes and feeling like they're, forgotten and all of that. And so that was a really cool deal to be able to celebrate him and at least have him feel like he was having a good birthday.
Wow. So this is a kid that pays attention to the ball game at his age, because it's hard to do for a lot of kids. I mean, they're going to feel the urge to go play and run and explore and maybe find someone else in the stands that of their age and, make off and go do I mean, that's pretty good. That tells me something about your 2-year-old.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, we took him to a game a couple of months ago, and my wife and I thought, you know what, we're going to give it a try. But we were pretty sure that he was going to be a nightmare. Like, he was going to want to run around and play and, all of that stuff. He didn't. He sat on my lap the entire game and just watched and followed the ball wherever it went, like loved it. And so I was like, you know what, I think we've got ourselves a baseball fan in the family. And so I took him back on Saturday. He did the same thing, sat on my lap. He enjoyed some French fries and a cheeseburger and drank his juice and just watched the game. So hopefully we've got more of that coming down the road, but really cool. I mean, I'm really super grateful to the wind surge for, recognizing him. And that was really cool. That was a really special, like, father-son moment that I got to have with him.
Well, that's just tremendous. You don't get those very often. And, the older they get, the more they happen less frequently, but that is really cool. Enjoy them at this age. Every age is a different stage, isn't it? Boy, isn't that, you've probably figured that out with your 2-year-old now. Every week or two, it's a different stage for something, isn't it? So just enjoy it. Roll with the punches and go.
We're in the stage right now with our 2-year-old Cooper where his favorite word is no. Everything is no. You want to go do this? No. You want to take a nap? No. You want to go to bed? No. You want to take a bath? No. Like, everything is no. And so just trying to, overcome that a little bit with him. But it's just a phase and every kid has them and goes through it. But that was really cool. Wanted to try to find a way to, make him feel special, considering we had to cancel his birthday party because his baby brother decided to show up early.
I got you.
So
that's cool,
anyway,
though, Tommy. That's cool, man.
Cool story. Just wanted to share that and say thank you to the wind surge. Back here on Sports Daily, by the way, the IHOP hotline is 869-1240. If you'd like to join the program like Robert did in the first segment, talking about the NBA Finals, of course, you can also join our video stream and leave your comments right there on the screen. Jason did that a little bit ago as well, so thanks to Jason for that. You can watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. I mentioned wind surge baseball. We're going to stick with the baseball theme and talk a little bit about Shocker baseball. Paul, I know you and Jacob talked about this at length last week, the decision that was made to not retain Lauren Hibbs as the head coach of Wichita State baseball after a 30-25 season as the interim head coach. And now over the weekend, we don't have any kind of official confirmation on this, but over the weekend, in fact, it was yesterday, D1 Baseball's Kendall Rogers reported that Kevin Saul will be hiring Brian Green, who is the head coach currently at Washington State University. Green also spent time at New Mexico State and was at Kentucky as an assistant when Kevin Saul worked in the front office at the University of Kentucky. This after a national search was scheduled to be launched. I'm assuming this is part of the national search, but again, no confirmation from Wichita State that this is official yet. However, we do have reporting from over the weekend that Brian Green will be the new head coach at Wichita State baseball. Your thoughts on that, Paul?
Well, I think this is a situation where the prerogative of an athletic director is to put in the people he's comfortable with, the people that he wants, the people that will, basically either make him successful or get him fired in a few years. And you cannot blame a Kevin Saul for putting his people in. And I don't know what his relationship with Lauren Hibbs. Lawrence Hibbs is a Kansas Baseball Hall of Famer, which means I know him fairly well. I mean, I don't know him like, you would go over for dinner or something, but, we see each other, we say hello and converse. In fact, I voted for him for his induction to the Kansas Baseball Hall of Fame. I was one of the plus votes for him. So I'm proud of that vote. But this is Kevin Saul's operation. And nobody knows this more than Lauren Hibbs, that this is Kevin Saul's decision. This is his program. This is how he puts his stamp upon this program. And man, what a stamp it is, having put in 2 basketball coaches and now a baseball coach. I mean, this is going lickety-split in it. That's pretty quick. But that's the way the cards are falling, and that's what he's doing. This is now officially, with this hire, I believe this is now Kevin Saul's athletic program. He's got people he wants. He's got people hired in the key positions that he wants, and let's see what happens. And I don't have a problem at all with Coach Green. Coach Green, I mean, his stats look good. I mean, they look decent. He coached at New Mexico, which I like. New Mexico State, I should say, because it's tough to do anything and have success in athletics at New Mexico State. You're the second poor cousin to the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and facilities aren't as good as a lot of places, D1 places, and he had success there. You show me a guy that can win at the university at New Mexico State University, and I'll show you somebody that can probably coach pretty good. So I'm going to give Coach Green the benefit of the doubt as to not knowing anything about him, looking at his resume and say, New Mexico State, success. I think you got it. Maybe you're pretty good. So with that being said, I don't fault AD Saul one bit for putting his people in. If that's what he thinks he needs to do, that's why Wichita State hired him.
I like Kevin Saul. I like the conversations that I've had with Kevin Saul. He is thoughtful. He's articulate. He's intelligent. He's all of those things. It also doesn't make him immune from criticism. And I don't like this hire. I don't like the decision that was made to not retain Lauren Hibbs. And I think that's okay. And I think that comes with the territory of being an athletic director. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to make decisions and make hires that will get the unanimous support of the entire fan base. That's just not reality. That's not the world that we live in. I thought that Lauren Hibbs should have been named the permanent head coach. I was very clear about that, very vocal about it. Jacob and I discussed it at the very end of the season when Wichita State was eliminated from the American Conference tournament. I said I thought that Lauren Hibbs had done enough and had stepped into a situation that was less than ideal and rallied the troops and had a really successful season. And, oh, by the way, was named the conference coach of the year. And I didn't think that, and this all happened last week when I was out, I didn't think that the decision to not retain the conference coach of the year was the right decision for Kevin Saul to make. I understand the points that you're making. I understand the fact that it is ultimately his athletic department and he wants his people in those roles. I get that. And I respect that. You are basically, when you hire somebody as an athletic director, you are tying your fate to them. And so you want to try to make sure you've got people that you feel comfortable with. I totally understand that. And it's nothing against Brian Green either. I just don't necessarily think that the grass is always greener on the other side. I said this on Twitter, I think it was last week, that just because you can make a change doesn't mean that you should make a change. Brian Green, you mentioned his stats are decent. They're decent. They're not amazing. They're not great. They're decent. He was 91 and 79 in his tenure at Washington State. They were eliminated from, or they didn't even make their conference tournament, right? They were 10 and 19 in the Pac-12 this season. They had a losing record. They were sub 500 in their conference. Now, granted, the Pac-12 is a more difficult conference than the American conference is, but still, like, it's a sub 500 record in conference play. So I'm just not sure that this is the splashy, high-profile hire that would make me or anybody else that thought that Lauren Hibbs should have retained the job say, okay, well, yeah, that's a clear upgrade from Lauren Hibbs, because I'm not so sure that it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the right decision, but I'm not so sure that this was a decision that needed to be made, other than just the fact that Kevin Saul wanted his guy in the chair.
Well, and you make good points. There's no question. I will put it this way, though. In the Pac-12, the worst baseball job in the entire conference is probably Washington State. Whether the locale, it's a tough place to get kids to want to go play baseball. A little easier in football, but in a sport like baseball, you're basically competing about over half of this conference is warm weather states and locations for their colleges and universities. And you've got several of the greatest baseball, 2 or 3 of the greatest baseball programs, historically speaking, in the Pac-12, which of course would be Arizona State, USC, to a lesser extent, UCLA. These are teams that, even though they're going to the Big Ten, they are really, really good baseball programs. And so when you look at it in terms of his success, I also know where he's coaching, and it's very, very difficult to be successful there. But with that being said, you talk about Kevin Saul trying to make this decision, but he has worked with Coach Green for a period of time at Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. And so they know each other. They have. And it's important, whether we like it or not, it's important for an AD to be comfortable with his guys. And this is
that the most important thing, though? I mean, do you sacrifice potentially the quality of the program for a sense of comfortability with the coach that you hire?
Well, I don't know that that's quite what I meant, but I mean, I get your point, and one could extract something like that from what I said, but it's not like he's saying, well, I just want to be comfortable. If I'm comfortable and we fail, then, failure is easier. Right. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's got to be something in this guy that Kevin Saul sees. I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but there's probably something. And I don't know if age is a factor. I mean, I'm no spring chicken myself, but on the other hand, I've got a heck of a lot of good use still left in me. You're getting up there, old guy. You're getting up there as well. And so anyway, you still have some pretty good wear left in you. But, this is one of those things where Coach Hibbs is maybe they look on him as maybe being too old for the game. I don't think that's at all I don't think that's right. If that is the case, then I'd be anti, not getting rid of Coach Hibbs for that. There's got to be something else. And I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to be critical one way or the other because I've just refused to talk about what I don't know, because as I'm getting to know Kevin Saul and my knowledge and acquaintances with Lauren Hibbs, it's tough for me to try to get involved in this in one way or another. But I will say this is Kevin Saul's athletic program. He gets to do what he wants, and if he thinks this is the wrong thing to do, he wouldn't do it. He obviously thinks it's the right thing to do, and you got to go with that, Tommy. I'm sorry, but that's what you got to go with that.
And I'll be the first to say, I hope that this is a slam dunk hire.
I know.
I hope that Brian Green, assuming that it is Brian Green, I hope he comes in and has a ton of success right off the bat.
And I know
that's going to be. I know that's going to be hard to do because as of right now, all but one player. Current players, they're in the transfer portal. Peyton Tolley is the only one that's not in the transfer portal as of right now in the program.
Hold on.
So I want to talk. I want to talk more about that.
Okay.
We're gonna take a break.
All right.
We're not done with this conversation.
You better believe that. You better believe
if you want to chime in on the conversation about the reporting that Wichita State may have hired their new baseball coach, you can join the IHOP hotline 869-1240. We'll come right back. We'll continue on the conversation here on Sports Daily. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Sports Daily on a Monday. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, Jad Chambers producing the show. The IHOP hotline is 869-1240. If you'd like to join the program that way, you can also join the program on our video stream on the KFH Facebook page, the KFH YouTube page, and the Sports Daily Twitter page. Paul, continuing on the conversation that we had before the break about the reporting that Wichita State baseball has a new head coach in Brian Green from Washington State University. I mentioned it before the break. It's going to be a challenge for whoever the new coach is, because as of right now, according to Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball, all but one player, current player from the Wichita State Shockers, currently in the transfer portal. So that's going to be difficult to try to, improve the squad that way, bring in new players, maybe try to convince some of the players that are currently in the portal to come back. Regardless if it's Brian Green or whoever it ends up being for Wichita State, that is a major issue that it's kind of the collateral damage, right? Kind of the fallout when you don't retain Lauren Hibbs as the head coach. You have to go out and try to find brand new talent to come in and fill your baseball squad.
Right. Well, here's the thing about the portal. When you enter the portal, as you know, you don't have to stay in the portal. And I'm going to make a prediction that more than half the kids that have entered the portal will stay at Wichita State and play baseball at Wichita State and will remain with the program. Won't be surprised, and that'll be okay. There's a lot of kids that are using the portal, and rightfully so. This is America. You can make your feelings known. But they're saying we're not happy with this situation as it now sits, and this is how I'm going to show my disapproval. And it certainly is eye-opening, and it certainly is eye-popping, but I really doubt that all these kids will stay in the portal. I'm not sure I would see that. Now, with that being said, gosh, I want to steal this phrase so bad. I want to steal something from Jad. He said over the break, and really and truly, I wanted to make it sound like it was me that came up with this, but this is brilliant. Jad said, this time next year, we're going to know just how successful Kevin Saul is. And I got to thinking about that.
Yeah.
He's going to have every coach now 1 year from now, right now, 1 week, first week of June of next year, we're going to know a lot more about just how successful these decisions were made. And I think there's a certain extent that Jad was really good. Dang, isn't that a good thought, though? I didn't think of that. Yeah. Jad Chambers, our in-house guy right here. Congratulations, Jad. But anyway, you want to say a word about your thought?
Well, my point on the whole thing was basically that sometimes if you get, a new executive somewhere, let's say you're in a business, or a new administrator somewhere like you got in government, sometimes if they don't rock the boat, you really don't have a lot to gauge them on. You don't really have a lot of things you can say about them. And we're going to have plenty to say. That's just the way 100%. It's going to be.
Right.
And absolutely. And that's a really good point. I mean, the fact that, Kevin Saul, one of the things that he's done is been very bold in his declarations on what he expects for Wichita State athletics, right? That, complacency is gone. Settling for mediocrity is gone. I appreciate all of that. I genuinely do. And I genuinely do like Kevin Saul. I don't know the inner workings of the Keitha Adams situation with women's basketball. I'm not sure, if she decided to just leave on her own, or if there were other factors that were playing into that. I know she's back at UTEP where she was, prior to coming to Wichita State. So I don't really know the inner workings of that situation. But the other two hires, men's basketball and baseball, those were two hires, two changes from Isaac Brown to Paul Mills, and now from Lauren Hibbs to potentially Brian Green, that didn't have to happen. They didn't have to. It just is what it is. They didn't have to happen, but they did. Kevin Saul kind of going out on a limb here with both men's basketball and baseball, making changes in his first year. And now you've got a new women's basketball coach too, in Terry Nooner. Jad, I think you're absolutely right. We're going to know here in the next year or so how successful these major hires have been for Kevin Saul.
Real quick, how many kids come back from the portal at Wichita State baseball right now?
I don't know. Maybe a few. I'm not sure it's going to be major. I don't think it's going to be major. I think if it's Brian Green or whoever else it's going to be, they're going to have a pretty tall task ahead of them, to be able to build this roster. I wouldn't get too optimistic about the success of Shocker baseball next season. The roster has been decimated now with this change in leadership. So, I mean, time will tell. And maybe Brian Green is a great recruiter, and maybe he'll come in if he's the new guy and he can convince some of these other players that entered the portal to stick around.
Hello, JUCO.
Time will tell.
Hello, JUCO.
Time will tell. Yeah, we'll see how it all goes. But of course, we don't know if this is official. Awaiting word from the university on whether or not this is actually happening. Just a report over the weekend that Shocker Baseball has their new head coach. And of course, we'll keep you updated as the situation progresses. That's going to wrap things up for hour number 1 on Sports Daily. We'll be back in just a few minutes talking a little bit about Big 12 expansion. Is Colorado on the verge of joining the Big 12 Conference? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more on Sports Daily.
Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily on a Monday. Tommy Castor and Paul Savage, Jacob Albracht out on vacation this week, and I'm back after being gone for a week of having our new baby in the house. And so we're kind of playing musical chairs a little bit with the hosts of the show this week and last week. Appreciate Paul stepping in and filling in the last couple of weeks for us as we navigate new baby and vacations and all of that stuff. Definitely that time of year, but looking forward to being here. And of course, it's hour number 2 of the program today. Paul, I want to mention really quick, of course, we would be remiss to not talk a little bit about the fact that Wichita River Festival is currently underway right now. The opening weekend was just a couple of days ago. The parade and the fireworks and all of that, the river run, all of the big opening weekend festivities. And we got a lot of events coming up this week, River Festival related. In fact, on Wednesday night, the Highland Dairy Ice Cream Social from 6:30 to 8. You can stop down. Anybody can come to this on Douglas and enjoy a complimentary bowl of Highland Dairy ice cream scooped by yours truly. I will be there for an hour and a half down there on Wednesday. I'll be, I guess they're calling it the Celebrity Scooper, which I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I will be there on site scooping ice cream for the Highland Dairy Ice Cream Social for Riverfest on Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to that.
Celebrity, huh? Well, you know something? It's just I just love hanging around with you because I hope somebody goes, hey, there's Savage. He's that celebrity Castor's buddy, something like that. It's
always a word that like I sort of cringe. Like when I like celebrity scooper, like, come on, really? Like, I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, I'm really looking forward to being down there on Douglas for the Riverfest.
Fun.
Scooping some ice cream for the fine folks that come down to enjoy that complimentary bowl of Highland Dairy ice cream.
Take a Sharpie with you in case people ask for autographs. A Sharpie usually works best. And
we just need to get some like 8.5 by 11 glossies that I can have like a stack of, hand out, sign. That might be a little bit too much. That might not be in the budget for us to take care of.
You think it might be just a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay.
It'll be fun though, and I know you've been around here for a long time, as have I. I mean, the Riverfest is always just it's so fun.
It is fun.
Just all not just the activities, but the people watching and just the sense of community and the concerts and the food and like all of that stuff. Like it's. Of course, if you've been here for any length of time, the Riverfest, why it's, the biggest event in the city each summer. And so I'm looking forward to getting down there this year and checking it all out.
Well, it's just great. Have fun, be safe. And I hope the weather holds for everybody and have a good time.
All right, we've got a lot to get to here in the second hour of the program. Of course, like I mentioned before, the IHOP hotline is 869-1240 if you'd like to join the program. Paul, you sent this to me over the weekend, and I've been following a little bit of this since I was out last week, but really haven't been, way tuned into all of the updated news on conference realignment and all of that as it relates to the Big 12. I know that Brett Yormark has been aggressive in his pursuits and conversations with other schools, but you noticed this the other day, I believe, that Colorado might be on the verge of joining the Big 12. What have you been hearing?
Well, it looks like that is the case, that Colorado will be the first shoe to fall from the Pac-12 and is going to indeed happen as soon as this week. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but we will see. But it sure does look like that this is about to happen, is going to happen. And then it's going to put that whole new set of pressures on the four corner schools, the other four corner schools, which would be Arizona, Arizona State, and, of course, Utah, and see what happens with them. I think it's very interesting that Colorado would be the first to join, but I'm not surprised, and here's part of the reason why. Where did Colorado leave? I mean, it left the Big Eight, participated in the Big Eight, Big 12 for many, many, many years. And not surprised that they would be the first one back. They're that kind of way out towards the east part of that conference anyway. So this makes sense to me. Everybody, and I say everybody, most of the sites that I look at on an extensive basis are predicting that this could be the week. This is we're at the point now where Colorado will join, and they will get their full share. By the way, they will get their full share of Big 12 money, which is what 41,000 is. I think without I don't have the notes in front of me, but 41,000 might be that amount. But it looks like Colorado is definitely headed towards the Big 12 by just the number of articles that I saw about Colorado this past week. They're on their way. I think. Don't know, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, so there are a few different articles out here that are citing the Swaim show, which I'm not familiar with the Swaim show, but apparently that's the show that's reporting that Colorado is on the verge of joining the Big 12. It's not just Colorado. Apparently Arizona is also another school that is allegedly on the verge of leaving the Pac-12 and joining the Big 12. But according to this report, they also say that nothing becomes official until the Pac-12 gets their TV deal finalized. So I'm guessing that Colorado and Arizona, maybe they want to hedge their bets. I'm guessing they want to see what that media rights deal looks like with the Pac-12 before making that decision. But I guess if this is where we are right now, this would lead me to believe that Colorado and Arizona, neither one of them feel all that confident or optimistic that they're going to get a good media rights deal from the Pac-12. And I mean, that's been the speculation for a long time, right? That the Pac-12 twiddled their thumbs, they drug their feet, they weren't aggressive, they didn't go out there and try to get a good media rights deal. And here we are. They still don't have one. And now you've got potentially a couple of their conference schools that are looking at leaving and joining the Big 12. My question is, and this is less about Arizona and more about Colorado, Paul. Do you think there's any hard feelings from Big 12 fans that Colorado left the conference in the first place and now they want to come back?
No. I mean, I would be that example. How about you? You're a KU guy. You love the University of Kansas. Are you mad at Colorado? Do you want to harbor some sort of disdain for them because they left? They did what was thought best for them at the time. I get it. I don't blame them. It almost worked out. It almost was a good thing for them, but over time it is proved that it's not. And by the way, that latest TV deal, I mean, a lot of these teams in the Pac-12 are balking because we're talking about streaming. We're not talking about broadcasting, Tommy. We're talking about streaming. And I think a lot of athletic programs are not convinced streaming is not yet, might be in the future, but not yet the way to go. They want broadcast rights, so that's part of it too. But no, I don't think anybody's going to care that Colorado was once a member. I think we're all going to say, welcome back to where you belong, where you should have never left. But we understand it. But now that you're back, and then you're going to see other dominoes fall because last week, Jacob and I talked about the fact that looks like the Big 12's looking at UConn. Appears, which I don't think anything's going to happen. Gonzaga for basketball only, and I hope nothing goes on with Gonzaga. I hope they're not allowed to join because Gonzaga is as good as long as Mark Few's going to be there. When he leaves, then who knows what's going to happen. But right now they're one of the best programs in America. But this is all personality based, is why they're as good as they are. So I hope that doesn't happen. But also. And this was just new. I tried to find this article. I sent it to Jacob on Friday. Just saw it. Looks like the Big 12 is starting to develop interest in Memphis. And I'm sitting to thinking to myself, well, I had Memphis going into the Big 12 way back when everybody else went in, the Cincinnatis and the Houstons of the world. I had Memphis going in. I thought they should have gone in. I think that is a diamond in the rough. I believe that's a program that could be developed into really something special. That are already special in basketball, obviously, but the same with football. And it looks like the reason being in the article that I sent Jacob, and now that I can't find, by memory, I'm remembering one of the things that the Big 12 was looking at was a presence in the South. Big 12 feels they don't have enough presence in the South. Let me read into that. They don't have enough presence in SEC country. And that's how I read that. And by that comment, it looks like maybe there's going to be fishing for some other teams in the deep South and try to get a foothold into that part of the country and not leave it all exclusively. When I say exclusively, it is exclusively SEC football teams. But boy, there's a lot going on. UConn, I think, would be a great fit. Part of the reason is because they're 20 minutes away from Bristol, which is the home of ESPN, Tommy? You think ESPN would pay attention to that? And because
it jumps them into, it gets them a presence in the New York City media market a little bit too.
Sure.
And that's really what Brett Yormark, I think, is trying to do. I mean, he's looking at areas where you can get really good media market presence, like Houston. I mean, that's a big reason why the Cougars are joining the Big 12. If they can get UConn and have a little bit of a foothold in New York City, that's a big deal. I found the article that you were referencing about Memphis.
Oh, okay, good.
Coming from 247sports.com, that the Big 12 is targeting potentially Memphis as a conference target. And that's being reported by the Daily Memphian newspaper and others. It was kind of surprising to me, Paul, when the first announcement came down about the teams that were going to be joining the Big 12 from the American, that Memphis was not on the list.
Yeah.
I would have thought Memphis would have been on
Me
the
too.
list. And, you've got Cincinnati and Houston and UCF. And I just expected to see Memphis on there. They've got a high profile basketball program. They're not great right now. They're okay under Penny Hardaway, but they've long had a long national profile in college basketball in the John Calipari days and going to the national title game, several years ago, back in 2008 when they played Kansas. So they've got that. They've got, a decent football program as well. That would be a team that I would be in full support of joining the Big 12. Really, honestly, I'm kind of at the point now, Paul, where it's kind of in Brett Yormark we trust. If there's a team that he wants to target and bring to the Big 12, I don't care if it's Colorado or UConn or Gonzaga or Memphis or whoever it is. If he feels like they're a good fit to expand in the Big 12, I'm going to be all for it. I don't care who it is. Let's just do it, and let's stay one step ahead of these other conferences.
Jacob made a comment last week that kind of blew my mind because I just didn't see that coming from Jacob. But Jacob's comment was, I don't have a problem with the Big 12 becoming 24 teams. That kind of stunned me for a little bit because I thought to myself, 24, not many people have talked about 24 teams. Although I do believe that the SEC will eventually end up being a 24-team conference. And maybe that's why we're starting to hear talk about the Big 12 being a 24-team conference. That still leaves a lot of teams to go, a lot of good quality teams that can be had from the Pac-12, from the ACC. I do not see the Big 12 getting a single Big 10 team. Not a single team could I picture, the Big 12 getting out of that league.
No.
That's not going to happen.
The Big 12 media or the Big 10 media deal, I think, is good enough that they're not going to get, any teams from that conference. I think that, the Big 12, outside of them pursuing potentially Memphis in the American, it's going to be teams from the Pac-12 and it's going to be teams from the ACC. So looking at, Duke potentially, looking at North Carolina, looking at, some of these other schools that are in the ACC that might not end up going to the SEC, like Clemson or Florida State. I think that they're ripe for the taking as well. And one other thing that I think Brett Yormark, and he's mentioned this before, that I think is really, really intelligent, is his desire, and I think the word that he used, Paul, is uncoupling, his desire to uncouple football and basketball in media rights deals. Because right now, as it stands, the conference enters these media rights deals for both football and basketball. Yormark feels like if you separate those two sports out, the conference could potentially make more money. You do one deal for football and you do one deal for basketball. And I mean, think about, and we know that football drives the ship, right? But think about how good this expanded Big 12 basketball conference would be. Jacob and I have talked about this before. You add UConn, who just won the title. What if you add Gonzaga? What if you add, some of these other schools that Arizona potentially, they're a perennial top 10 team in America. Think about how good that basketball conference from top to bottom would be. It's going to be great even without these teams. But if you can, in Brett Yormark's words, uncouple football and basketball, the Big 12 could make a ton of money on both football and basketball if you negotiate separate deals.
Right. It's going to take a while to get there, though, Tommy, partly because, well, first of all, the Big 12 is not going to get any ACC teams until, say, Clemson, Florida State, pick your other team from that conference goes to the SEC. And don't get me wrong, I think it's just a matter of a year or so before the SEC says, you know something? I kind of like Clemson. South Carolina may also fit in our portfolio in the SEC. We definitely want Florida State. We want them, obviously. Miami, no, I'm not quite sure they fit in with what we want to do. I don't think they do. But you could see the ACC. Gosh, I always want to go AAC. The ACC, the ACC, you could see them blowing up, and you could see some of those teams that remain going to the Big 12. But it's not going to happen, at least as I see it, and watch it happen this afternoon. But I don't think it's going to happen until the SEC takes those teams they want. And I could certainly see in their desire to go to 24 teams taking 4, 5 maybe teams out of the ACC. I think it could happen. In fact, I think it will happen. What do you think of that?
I think it will too. I think it's a matter of time before the SEC decides that, based on the football programs, that Clemson and Florida State are both schools that would be beneficial to have in the SEC. I think it's going to be a matter of time before at least those two teams join the SEC. And then you've got, some of these other teams that maybe don't have powerhouse football programs, but are still good. Like North Carolina under Mac Brown is a good program. Duke is a good football program.
What?
Like, these are our programs.
What?
Duke played in a bowl game, and they played in bowl games, right?
Well,
like they've been ranked. I'm just saying that
right,
they're not at the caliber of joining the SEC, but they could potentially be ripe for the taking for the Big 12. And then think about the basketball product. When you've got Kansas, Duke, and North Carolina in the same conference, I mean, come on now. Like, come on. Like, you would take that in a heartbeat. Because think of the money that you could make when you've got those schools potentially in the same conference. And then, of course, you potentially add those schools in the Pac-12, Arizona and others. That basketball product would be the second best basketball product in America behind the NBA. It would be the NBA and then Big 12 basketball. I mean, that basically would be the way that it would all play out. My other question on this, Paul, do you think that Colorado would be nearly as attractive of a target for conference expansion for the Big 12 if a guy by the name of Deion Sanders was not the current head coach at Colorado?
Well, that is an excellent question. And I think it would be yes. And I say that because, with the University of Colorado in the Big 12, they're located in one of the, largest cities in the western part of the country, with Denver, and Denver is one of those places where, large population, you included along the baseline of the Rockies with Colorado Springs. The population is just unbelievable. And I believe that it would bring back some of the lore and the fun of college sports again. Right now, they're not a factor. Right now, the Rockies are hardly a factor. The Nuggets are a factor because they're in the NBA, but it's a Broncos area. Broncos this, Broncos that. Show me somebody that doesn't wear a Broncos cap or a T-shirt, and I'll show you somebody that doesn't know what sports is, because that's what it all is. I mean, I go out to Colorado. I have a little place out there. As people know, I rarely see anybody. In fact, I can't remember the last time I saw somebody with a University of Colorado T-shirt, baseball cap, anything like that. And it's going to be a long trudge back into prominence for the University of Colorado. But with Deion Sanders, I think it's possible. I think this is a match. This is a special time in the history of Colorado athletics. The time for them is now to get back to where they need to be. But they got to get out of the Pac-12 because they are not going to go where they need to go in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is just sitting there waiting to die. And make that move now, Colorado. I think that's why a lot of people think that they're going to make that move, and it's going to be sooner rather than later.
One thing about Brett Yormark and just knowing where he came from before he was the commissioner of the Big 12. He worked in the entertainment business, right? He was a part of Rock Nation
that's
with
correct.
Jay-Z.
That's correct.
He knows the entertainment world, and he knows entertainment value and eyeballs and revenue from advertising and dollar signs and all of that. He recognizes that. He gets the spectacle of all of it. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime at Colorado, is a spectacle. It's entertainment. It's football, but it's entertainment. There's a reason why cameras follow him around, and he's got the reality show. Like, it's entertainment value, and that fits in perfectly with Brett Yormark's vision of the Big 12 as entertainment and being aggressive in that mindset.
Right.
The old stodgy ways of the Pac-12, and their institutional academic values and all of these things, that doesn't fit with Colorado right now and Coach Prime right now. So I'm with you in that regard. If I'm Deion Sanders, if I'm the University of Colorado, get out of that conference and come back to the Big 12 as soon as you possibly can, not only for the dollar amounts, but also, for everything going on in the world of media rights and entertainment value and all of that. We're going to go to the IHOP hotline here really quick at 869-1240. Talk to Charlie, who's got some thoughts on conference realignment. Charlie, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing this morning?
Good, Charlie.
Doing great.
Good. Hey, real quick, my question for you guys is, do you think they'll still continue to call it the Big 12 if we add more than 12, or do you think they'll keep it as the Big 12? I mean, I'm just throwing this out, Big 24? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a done deal. We've already been told, and this was probably a couple of months ago, Charlie, so I could sure see where one could miss it with everything going on. But a couple of months ago, it was noted that it doesn't matter if you add 24 teams to the Big 12. It's still going to be known as the Big 12. They're going to keep their logo. They're going to keep their name. Those two things will not change no matter how many teams join this league.
Okay. That was all I wanted to know, guys. Thank you very much.
You're entirely welcome.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for the call. And, I think that's from a branding perspective. I think it makes sense that, you've got that name, the legacy of the name
and
for
the
a
logo.
long time. So, and the logo.
Yep.
I mean, it'd be kind of funny to have 24 plus teams and you're still the Big 12, but whatever. It's less about the number of the schools and more about the name and the branding and the legacy attached with it. But man, it's certainly interesting. Every day it sure seems like new developments come out, but man, if I'm Colorado, if I'm Coach Prime, and you know what, that very easily could have been, I don't know, but could have been a condition of his employment. Hey, you hire me, you got to find a way out of the Pac-12 and into the Big 12. Got to make that happen as soon as possible. I don't know. That very easily could have been a contract requirement for Deion Sanders. Time will tell, and it sounds like, according to these reports, that Colorado is on the verge of joining the Big 12. We'll see how long that takes. We're going to step aside for a break. On the other side, can you believe it? Tom Brady is in the news. I'm shocked. We're going to talk a little Tom Brady when we come back on Sports Daily. It's Castor and Savage on a Monday on Sports Daily. Paul, you know what the hardest thing in the world is when you are a parent? It is, well, I mean, there are a lot of hard things, right?
Right.
But one of the hardest things, and something that I was just trying to do during the commercial break, as I'm doing the show this week from home, is trying to get a 2-year-old to stand still and smile for a camera for his birthday. My wife is currently trying to take pictures of him for his second birthday, which is today. He's got a shirt that he's wearing that says birthday boy, and she wanted him out on the front porch to try to do some pictures, and he wanted to do everything but stand still and smile and take a picture. So it's kind of like a rodeo. Like you're kind of like herding cattle a little bit, like trying to get him to stand still.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I was up there for a couple of minutes during the break. I don't think we got a single good picture. And that's, I think that's part of parenting.
It's a protest. That's exactly, it's a protest. He's sitting there thinking to himself, here it is, my birthday, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt from mom and dad, and they want a picture? No way. It's a protest.
Where are the presents? Where's the presents?
That's right.
Where's the donuts? Where's the birthday cake? Where's all, I mean, all that stuff is coming. He's got all that stuff coming later on today. But yeah, just, you know, I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I've got 2 minutes. Got 2 minutes of the commercial break.
Minutes.
I will try to help you snag a picture of him. And then I finally was like, you know what? It's not going to happen. I got to go. And so as I'm sure, you know, a lot of people out there that have kids or, you know, have had toddlers will understand that's a pretty difficult thing. Welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily Hour number 2 on KFH. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage. The IHOP hotline is 869-1240. Jad Chambers producing the show. And Paul, you sent this to me over the weekend. You know, I try to do everything that I do. I try to make it so I don't have to pay attention to Tom Brady unless I absolutely have to. You know, I am tired of Tom Brady. I'll be the first to admit it. I have always wanted him to ride off into the sunset and I would never have to hear from him again. Unfortunately, that's not the case because it looks like he's going to be entering a world of broadcasting now that he's done playing in the NFL. And you sent me the article that a few days ago, he reaffirmed his commitment that he is retiring. He is done. He's not going to play again. Do you believe him?
Well, you know something, I'm starting to believe him. I really am. I guess I do. I guess I believe that he's going to have other things he can do. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he turn down $14 million a year, $12 million a year, something like that to broadcast? And I think he could end up being an excellent broadcaster. He's got a great personality, a great voice, has a great presence on air. I think he would be really a great broadcaster, giving us insight. And man, I'm going to tell you right now, Tommy, I love broadcasters who give me insight, who tell me something I didn't know, whether it's about coverage or route running or, you know, quarterback stuff, whatever the case might be, or even on defense, you know, this is what they're doing. And I mean, I love that kind of stuff. And I think he could be as good as anybody on the radio or on television, if that's where he ends up, about breaking down things and giving somebody a little bit of knowledge about the game, breaking it down to a point where you learn something. That's what I like. And I'm sorry that it appears he will not be a broadcaster. He's turned this money down. Can you imagine turning down $12 million a year, Tommy? I mean, because
I think he'll be I think he will be a broadcaster. Like
okay.
Well, I mean, I think that it's up in the air. Like he's got the deal. Like the deal is done. with Fox for him to be a broadcaster.
But he hasn't done.
I just wonder, he hasn't done it, and he's taking
that's
this
right.
year off allegedly to get ready to be a broadcaster. I just wonder, when push comes to shove and that time happens, will we actually see him in a broadcast booth? And that's the thing that I think that drives me crazy with Tom Brady is the will he, won't he situation. And for a long time it was, will he, won't he retire? Will he, won't he go to Tampa Bay? Will he, won't he go to the Dolphins and be a part owner and player? Will he, won't he be a minority owner for the Raiders? Like all of these different, like he stays at the top of the news cycle because there's always speculation and there's always a question if he's actually going to do this or do that. You know, the first time he retired and then he came back. And so now we've got an entire year where he won't be a broadcaster, but the deal I believe is signed for him to be at Fox. We have an entire year to sit and wait and think, will he or won't he actually follow through with that deal and become a broadcaster? And like, that's the part that annoys me, is just the constant, like, will he, won't he actually do something?
Well, I think I'd rather have him as a broadcaster. I think I personally would enjoy him as a broadcaster. What if he comes back and he's not as good? I want to have that vision of Tom Brady being as good as he was when he left the game, going out on top. There's an old saying, go out on top is the best way to go out. And I think that's what Tom Brady has done. If he comes back, I want a commitment for 100,000 passing yards. He's at 81,000. Tom Brady, if you don't come back, that's okay. But if you do come back, make me a promise. You will reach 100,000 passing yards in the NFL. That is a record, Tommy, that I think will be very, very, very difficult to break.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that, that would have been absolutely a narrative if Brady continued to play. He did reaffirm his commitment that today is June 5th. So back on June 1st, it would have been, I guess, on Thursday, he was on a podcast where he reaffirmed his decision that he was not going to be playing in the NFL anymore. I don't know. And that brings up the big question. How much do we believe Tom Brady?
Well,
like, is it kind of the boy who cried wolf? Is it the, hey, you retired once and then you came back? How can we believe you again this second time? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me for believing you. So I wonder how much doubt there actually is about whether or not he'll actually suit up again.
Well, two phrases come to mind. One, pushing your luck. You know what I mean by that? Pushing your luck with your age, with your health, all that kind of stuff. That comes to mind. And then, be careful what you wish for. I don't want to see Tom Brady come back and get hurt. I really don't want to see that. Tom Brady's healthy. Tom Brady's got his legs under. Tom Brady hasn't taken those kind of hits that would, penalize your health later on in life. Hell, he's already later on in life. So with that being said, I hope he doesn't come back, because I don't want to see anything happen to him. I don't want to see him, blow a knee, anything like that. I don't want to see the cart come out and get Tom Brady, which could happen at his age. Well, heck, it could happen at any time with quarterbacking, but I hope he doesn't come back. I hope it's done. I hope he's done. And I look forward to the new Tom Brady. I look forward to a Tom Brady in the broadcast booth. I'll guarantee you one thing. I'm going to learn stuff. I mean, I know a little about football. I confess I know, well, even maybe a little more than the average person. Okay, I give you that. But I'm looking forward to learning a whole lot of stuff from Tom Brady. And, just don't take a chance with your health. You've played all these years without major injury. I would consider that, a good thing. And I would say that's good, and I'm done. So that's what I kind of hope. I hope he doesn't come back, Tommy. I know that's selfish, though, in a way, because I know he's good for the game. But there are a lot of other things that can be good for the game. Patrick Mahomes is good for the game. Let's concentrate on Patrick Mahomes.
So this alleged new contract with Fox Sports to be in the broadcast booth, not this coming season, but the next season, 10 years, $375 million. So $37.5 million a year to be a broadcaster with Fox Sports. Significant amount of money for Tom Brady to be a broadcaster. I think one of the big questions is the prep time. that it takes to be a broadcaster and the travel that it takes to be a broadcaster, all of those things. I'm not saying he can't do it. I think he can. But part of the reason that was cited when he left and retired for, I guess, what is officially the second time, was that he wanted to spend more time with his family. He wanted to be home more.
Right.
If you're a broadcaster and I think that you could think that with that kind of money that Fox wants him to be the lead broadcaster for Fox, you're going to be on the road a ton. You're going to be traveling a lot. You might even be on the road more as a broadcaster than you were as a player because you don't have home games, right? You're traveling all over the country. You're not coming in, a couple of days before the game. You might be coming in 3 or 4 days before the game and doing prep work and getting ready for the prime Fox game of the week. You're doing all of these things. You might actually be home less than you were when you were actually a player. So all of that plays into it where, we've got quite a bit of time before he, I guess, is supposed to make his entrance into the booth. There is a part of me that thinks that time will come and we won't see Tom Brady as a broadcaster.
Well, I
Time will tell.
I appreciate your comments on prep time, because I hadn't really thought about that, but you're exactly right. Prep time is a lot. I mean, prep time will far exceed how much time he's really on the air. I mean, even our little old show right here, you and I both do a lot of prep. I mean, it's not like we just get up out of bed, roll over, throw some jeans on and go do a radio show. We kind of work at it. And I hadn't really thought of it that way, Tommy. The way you just put it with show prep, it's correct. And it's going to be a lot more than you and I do. That's for sure. But I get it. And I understand that. So it kind of gives me a better perspective, having talked about this with you. I really have a little better perspective upon the decisions that Tom Brady is making. And isn't it kind of interesting, though, to say, I'm going to leave I can't believe I'm about to say this on the radio. I'm going to leave $37 million on the table this year. I don't need it. So I'm just going to wait on before I start collecting. 37 million left on the table. Those are words I never thought I would utter in my entire life, but there it is.
Here's Tom Brady's quote. He says, "I'm looking forward to my broadcasting job at Fox next year. I'm looking forward to the opportunity ahead with the Raiders. And we're in the process of that, along with the other different things I'm a part of professionally and in my personal life, just spending as much time with my kids as I can and seeing them grow up and support the different things that they have going on. And that's a very important job. And I take them all pretty seriously." So he's pretty clear, at least from what he's saying from the other day, that he will not be playing again. Time will tell. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing about Tom Brady. The only thing that's for sure is that nothing is for sure. So we'll, of course, continue to monitor that. And he, for whatever, whichever way you slice it, he's got a lot going on, and it'll be interesting to keep our eyes on that for sure. We're going to take another break, our final full segment coming up on the show. When we come back, an update, some sad news over the weekend. The matriarch of the Kansas City Chiefs, Norma Hunt, passes away yesterday at the age of 83. We will talk about that after the break on Sports Daily. Welcome back, everybody. Final full segment on Sports Daily here on KFH. Tommy Castor and Paul Savage. Jad Chambers producing the show. The IHOP hotline, 869-1240. And Paul, we wrap up the final segment of today's show. A little bit of sad news. The matriarch of the Kansas City Chiefs, Norma Hunt, passed away over the weekend at the age of 85. She was the first lady of Chiefs football and was the only woman to attend every single Super Bowl in the history of the game. Of course, very visible during her time with the Chiefs, and definitely a sad story as we kick off the week here on Sports Daily.
Right. And I have a great amount of respect for the Hunt family, and going back to Lamar. And I guess my story, my personal story with Lamar Hunt is, Tommy, I know you get fans letters and you probably get requests in the mail for your autograph all the time.
All the time, daily.
And you know, that not so much today, but there was a day up to at least the last few years where people would sit down and write for an autograph. And it was an honorable way to get somebody's autograph that you will probably never meet in person. Well, over the last 25 years, I probably wrote Lamar Hunt 50 times asking for autographs. And every time I ever wrote him, he would send me back 2 or 3. And I got a ton of his autographs. And I came to understand that the one thing about autographs is that it's an extension of a person and who they are. And it tells a lot about their character when people sign autographs for people they don't know. It says, I don't mind giving you a part of me to you. That's the way I've always looked at it. So knowing that about Lamar Hunt, I have a great amount of sadness that his wife is now passed. Lamar passed, maybe 10, 12 years ago? It's been a while. And I have a lot of respect for that family. They are kind. They have always been nice to me. At least Lamar Hunt was always nice to me. So with that being said, you know, it got my attention when I saw her passing, and I thought, if she was anything like her husband, she was a great lady.
Yeah, of course, you know, that franchise, just the historic nature of what that family has done for the game of football, for the NFL. I mean, come on, it was Lamar Hunt and Norma Hunt that named the Super Bowl Super Bowl, right?
That's
like
right.
It was they did it, like it's the biggest sporting event in the history of the planet. They named it. You know, so I don't think you can overstate the importance of what Norma Hunt brought to not only the Kansas City Chiefs organization, but to NFL, to football, professional football in general.
Right.
You know, the Lamar Hunt trophy is, you know, named after, you know, Lamar and the family,
right,
that goes to the AFC champion.
Right. And let's not
everything that they did with the AFL and then the merge with the NFL, like, you know, incredibly instrumental as to why the NFL is what it is today.
And what a journey they have been on through football. Notwithstanding, if you remember, their love for football was so special. They took a roll of the dice and bought an old American League. You know, I didn't say American Conference. I said they bought an old American League football franchise in Dallas. And I know you know the whole story of moving from Dallas to
the Dallas Texans, right?
And then, of course, the merger after the Jets won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl III. It was something. I mean, that was a roll of the dice. A lot of those guys didn't last. A lot of those guys lost a lot of money. But the Hunt family has always had a great love for football and a great love for soccer. And so, and by the way, Lamar Hunt, I don't know if you knew this, Tommy, or not. A lot of people are not aware of it. Lamar Hunt's in the Soccer Hall of Fame, just like he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. He's in 2 major sports Hall of Fame, both of them as contributors, obviously. But, you know, it's just something special. Their They are a part of football history, and the NFL is better for their having been in it. That's for sure.
And how special is it that Norma, I know Lamar passed away before he had a chance to see this current dynasty that
Right.
Kansas City has built. But how special is it that Norma Hunt was alive to see the last two Super Bowls that Kansas City won? You know, it had been 50 years. It had been a long time since they had been there. And that was always the goal for them to get back. Lamar, unfortunately, didn't get a chance to see it, but Norma did. And so that's special. That's kind of the last remaining piece to the original Chiefs franchise when they relocated to Kansas City. And so, definitely a sad day, but of course it's also a day to be able to look back and celebrate the accomplishments, the achievements, and everything that Norma and the Hunt family have meant to the NFL in general.
Yeah, they're class. They are class all the way, Tommy. I'm glad you brought that up, even if it's the last segment. We did need to talk about just how great this family is and what they've meant to, football in general for literally decades.
I do have some quick news that I want to pass along.
Please.
Shams Charania, who is an NBA insider for The Athletic and Stadium, big time Twitter presence, breaks news on Twitter involving the NBA a lot. 5 minutes ago said, Kyrie Irving has reached out to Lakers star LeBron James in attempts to see if James would come to Dallas to play. No idea if that's going to happen or not. LeBron James playing for the Mavericks next year. We'll talk more about that tomorrow on the show if anything comes from that. But that's some breaking news coming down here at the very end of the show. We'll be back to wrap things up and tell you what's on tap here on the network. Coming up next on Sports Daily.
Most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for a Monday edition of Sports Daily on KFH. Coming up on the network today, Jim Rome follows us at 11, Bob and Jeff at 2, Maggie and Perloff at 4, Zach Gelb at 5, and the Royals on the road in Miami taking on the Marlins. Pre-game coverage begins at 5:30 this afternoon. That's going to wrap things up for a Monday. Paul, we'll see you back here tomorrow, bright and early, 9 a.m. We'll see you then, okay?
We've got it. We got it.
All right, sounds good. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching on the video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and for listening, calling the IHOP hotline 869-1240. We will see you back here tomorrow for a Tuesday.
Sports, lighter news, and great comedy with Bob and Tom.